this is very much their research, something that they have an international reputation for, and I'm sure they would not only use a different accent, but they'd also speak with some great passion and insight on this. So but I will give a quick overview of what is in this first phase deliverable, which, as I say, will be on the way. I do encourage you to have a read. It is a very engaging piece of work. Part of the grounding phase, helping us to understand some of the assumptions that are always made and to address some of those assumptions in what we do. There is often this view about travel information and information that all of our problems will be solved if we have the perfect intelligent transport system, real-time information system, which gives everybody all the knowledge that they need whenever they need it at exactly the right time that they need it, and that will be for the benefit of themselves and the transport system. But there are some fundamental problems with that view, which is where we start and where a lot of the research now goes. People aren't rational. I know I'm not rational. They don't equally weigh information, and they very much pick and choose in terms of travel information. They use it to confirm behaviour, usually within one mode. So just putting information out there, it's a very, very, very blunt policy instrument. The goal, what we're trying to do, is change travel behaviour and policy behaviour to reduce CO2. We talked about that. As usual, there are two main methods, hard measures and soft measures. What we're interested in is the soft measures. However, either way, as the deliverable goes on to talk, projects must be accessible to planners and practitioners. They should be able to understand what's out there. They must have support of decision makers, the hard and the soft tools. And they must have the support from the public. And it's that kind of space in which we're operating as a platform. We're not about building a super duper all-whizzy travel information system. That's very important. But we see that to make progress, we have to operate in this space. There are certain tools out there which people will be aware of. For planners and practitioners, there's LTIS, there's Max Success, which is, I must admit, it wasn't one that I knew, but it's quite an impressive site, to give ideas, disseminate best practice, and building on what Holger has said, a lot of the onus will now be on cities, and cities to be innovative, cities to think about how they can move forward in groups, clusters, or indeed individually. But whatever we do, engaging the public, the support of the public is key. I've already mentioned that, and the research that they collate shows this. Politicians need support, they need to know they've got support, and they must use campaigns to try and get that support. And general campaigns, can be very interesting, but it doesn't mean there'll be a behaviour change. So there's awareness, there's perhaps an attitude change, perhaps there's acceptance, but it doesn't always lead to action. And that's very important, and all the research shows this. So we go all the way through this continuum. But getting over to the right-hand side doesn't always happen. In fact, usually doesn't happen. And it's interesting, and I think it's a common theme already, that interesting examples of behaviour change, and also the mechanisms which exist, put mobility within its context. It's not all about transport. I'm a transport person, but sadly it's not all about transport. It's transport within another heading, within its impacts on health, within its impacts on integration, with its impacts on economic development as well as sustainable change. So, it's useless as information if it doesn't have meaning. That's the bottom line. And so what this first phase of research has been doing is we're trying to understand what meaning is. We must understand meaning so that we can find an effective way to motivate change. And that's what this first piece of work has been doing. And Owen in his presentation has just thrown out some of the key thoughts and findings that have come out of the research, the literature research, but also some of the ongoing focus groups and discussions with people. CO2, we're talking about transport. I've already said transport is only part of the city solution. We also talk about CO2. And the research, and our research, shows that CO2 is it's up there. It's massively abstract. Climate change, massively global. What's it got to do with me? And there are three main reactions to climate change information. When information is presented on CO2, because it's an abstract concept, and it's often presented as a weight or an equivalent, does it actually mean anything to anybody, and are they motivated to change? The equivalents that they have and the weights that are assigned to carbon not understood. People cannot understand these. People are not capable of making informed decisions about something so abstract. And there are different ways in which we try and engage. The tree. This is how many trees it will cost, because we try and make it concrete. But it doesn't really. When we've done the interviews, people don't really equate this tree. They don't really understand what we're talking about when we talk about carbon. And so you present Earths. You say, oh, we'll need this many Earths to support an American lifestyle that we all have, or a Northern European lifestyle. But people are saying, well, there's only one Earth. What do you mean? So I don't really get this. And it's wasted, quite frankly. And when you compare averages, as a lot of sites do, I think there is an example in here. Okay, if my carbon footprint is higher than the average, I might reduce. But again, research in other areas shows that if I'm lower, I'll think, oh right, cool, I'll go on my nice holiday next year. And people go towards that average. So comparison is fraught with danger. The other issue that we're facing with climate change is that it's massively discounted because it's a future issue. It's seen as a future issue, and if it's thought of in abstract terms and in the future, it is just massively discounted. So change isn't important for me. And also about the fact that there is no direct link between actions and impacts. So I change, but so what if something is happening in a distant place? It doesn't necessarily directly impact me, and we have to get over that. And that's when we talk about scenarios, for example, and what-if scenarios, trying to understand the language and the way in which people really feel that it's real. And interestingly, people do see city and neighbourhood as a way of conceptualising change, because that affects them, it's very real to them. It's about security, it's about lifestyle. Lifestyle is key, I think. It always drops onto the bottom priority. And interestingly, perhaps most importantly, all the solutions are usually losses. You have to give something up. So if you want to reduce carbon, you give something up. It's a loss that you perceive. And losses, economic theory and behavioural economics shows that losses are usually valued twice as high as gains. And so as soon as there's a loss, you've had it. You're up against it, really. And so you come to a solution, which I'll talk about in a minute. So climate change and reactions, how do people react? There's three main reactions. Deniers, people who do token behaviour, so do a little bit so they sleep on a night. And then there are those who actually do some desired behavioural change. Within that package of desired behavioural change, there's a lack of knowledge about what really works and what does work. So there's a bit of noise around that. But what we've tried to do already in terms of trying to develop guidance and what would be in the platform, we've tried to look at how we get to the deniers, what the token people are looking at, and the desired behavioural change, how we can reinforce and support their decisions. The idea from some of the literature about alarms, for example, you think I'm doing something good, oh it's great because I've changed my vehicle and it's less polluting, but just be careful, you haven't done everything that you need to do yet, just an alarm. And alarms work very well with people, and again there's literature around this. I'll whiz through these because time's a bit tight. The deniers ignore information that contradicts their choice. They don't see how websites purely relate to climate change. Climate change is not the sell, it's really important. And we reach them through other values. This is already coming out. This has been confirmed in our primary research that we've done. And there is often no direct feedback on desirable behaviour. We need to be able to do that so we can see the bigger pictures of their actions. And interestingly, to see what you do counts, the city or the spatial area, the smaller spatial area is something that people can touch and feel, which is an opportunity for us. The tokenists, they make changes that are too small to have an impact. There's some examples here. Or they do unrelated environmental behaviour. And the kind of things that you've got to do, or that the research shows us works, is you must highlight how important personal transport is. Just those graphs that Holger showed.